This is going to be a unique situation where we get to not only see the vision reengineering side from the sales side, but also from the customer side.
We hear some birds from your side. Could you kindly ask them to turn off?
Turn them off.
Vision reengineering, being the sales technique, is not about sales. You spend a lot of hours, you do the proposal, and then you don't get chosen. You don't
stand up and take your time to find somebody you can win.
But the actual reason why you're buying it is just because you like it.
We were not planning on making this mobile.
You were adamant about not having an app.
And when I saw it, I was really impressed. When we were presenting to our clients, the thing they liked the best look is the mobile. And
customer side and also your side coming together and in a way that's customer focused all the way.
Well, welcome everybody. My name is Lily Avalihun. I am the CEO of Hebronsoft, a software company. We help businesses thrive and succeed by providing high quality IT services and creative software solutions. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Bill Barr, Volodymyr Savarinsky, and Mark Peterson. Bill Barr has recently retired from a career in sales and sales management consulting, where he represented Sales Performance International and the solution selling methodology. Bill is on the advisory board of Hebronsoft, helping us with our sales and marketing efforts. Volodymyr Savarinsky is Hebronsoft CTO. Volodymyr has demonstrated his ability to use situational knowledge to transform existing visions into better solutions for our clients. And one of our clients is Flint Learning Solutions. So Mark Peterson represents Flint Learning Solutions. He is a managing partner of Flint Learning Solutions. It's a Canadian-based e-learning corporation. Flint has developed a unique learning methodology that takes e-learning to a whole new level. This learning methodology is being rapidly adopted by Fortune 1000 companies. So today, for this panel discussion, Bill will be interviewing Volodymyr, who is in collaboration with Mark. They both use vision reengineering to implement an e-learning solution for Mark's company. Mark will also share how he and his partner Russ have used vision reengineering to close more businesses and help their clients improve their employee training initiatives. All right, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Lily. And I appreciate the opportunity to join you today and Volodymyr as well, and welcome Mark as well to our little session. This is going to be a unique situation where we get to not only see the vision reengineering side from the sales side, but also from the customer side. So Mark, we're so pleased that you're willing to be a part of that and open up a little bit as to what you saw from the customer side. So I find it helpful when I'm trying to organize my thoughts around a topic like vision reengineering is to answer the what, when, who, why, how kind of questions about a subject. And so let's make sure we understand what vision reengineering really is and define that a little bit. And so, Volodymyr, how would you define vision reengineering? What is it?
Vision reengineering, in short, from what I've been applying all the time, is helping out the client to change his vision, to change his product, that it serves his business needs better. Client has software, always is just an instrument, a means to solve some problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem could be just as simple as earn money. That's also a problem. I want to earn money. I need this software and I think I will earn money with this, or other problems. And customer, based on his understanding of the problem, designs a set of requirements, how the software should work to do that better. And vision reengineering is helping these requirements to change in a non-threatening way when you know they could be changed to solve the problem even more effectively.
Yeah, and that isn't that the goal of the vision reengineering is not just to win business, but to help the client. It's client focused if it's done right, and not just trying to pad or make a bigger deal or do something that way. Mark, do you have a comment on what vision reengineering is?
Well, organizations typically have a business problem they're trying to solve,
Right.
and they have ideas on how they might go about solving it, but often they're, can be blinded just because, when we're so focused on our business, we always can't see other options that are around it.
Yeah.
And so vision engineering for me is really about understanding what the organization's problem is. What's their business problem they're trying to solve?
Mm-hmm.
What
Very
have
nice.
they tried in the past? What's worked, what hasn't worked? And then to help them to vision other possible solutions to that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and then really just kind of opening up their eyes to different ways that we could solve that problem together.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Yeah, so you're
Yeah.
kind of seeing it there, folks, from both the seller side and also the customer side. Uh, Customers do
Can I
have.
only comment? I think
Yes.
the interesting thing about vision engineering in my answer and Mark's answer is we both talked about helping the customer,
Yep.
but we're discussing a sales technique, right?
Yep.
And it just happens that it is a sales technique towards vision reengineering,
Mm-hmm.
but it works just because the human nature is like that. When person trusts you enough to understand the problem, they will trust you with money to solve the problem, with the solution to provide it.
Yeah.
Like very common example, because I talked solely about helping the customer, and that's where I dedicate, and I think everybody dedicates 100% of the attention trying to understand how to help. And that's a background thought that I know that if I'm successful in helping the customer, I will win the solution. It's quite similar
Yeah.
to how you ask for you're doing renovation in your house, like typical scenario, everybody does, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you ask
Mm-hmm.
for a carpenter, and somebody could just give you a price, and somebody will just say, what? No, that will not work. What do you want to do? No, I've got this experience, it will not work. Just try this. Try this, it will work better. I know. Typical line is, I know, I have it in my house or my son's house, my mother-in-law's house. It works. And if you understand the person has experience and understands what you need and can provide valid examples of what and why something will or will not work, that usually helps to sell. But vision reengineering being the sales technique is not about sales.
Yeah, you're right. It's about
It's a
helping the customer.
byproduct. Winning
Yeah,
the customer is the byproduct.
there you go.
The foremost goal is to help get the better solution.
Yeah, very nice. Very nicely put. So it's a collaborative approach, isn't it? It's that you as the salesperson and Mark as the customer have to work together, and both may bring ideas to the table and or concerns, because but I'm going to define sales this way: it's hurt, rescue, and proof. Three simple words, but that's really all that it is the hurt means what are the problems that the customer is trying to solve? What are the issues? Or what is the missed opportunity, the chance to improve their company in some way? That's the hurt part. Then the rescue is, well, how do I do that? What are the solutions, the best solution for me? What's the most effective solution for me to do that? That's the rescue. And the proof then is building trust through these collaborative conversations. You build trust that the customer believes you can do it, but you also may have proof steps such as some sort of a pre-sale or a references or other ways of proving that you are the best organization to be able to move forward with that prospect, that customer. So my words are mine, hurt rescue proof, but the material we're using in Vision and Reengineering comes from my background in sales training since 1997. I've trained on Vision and Reengineering for many, many years and decades, but my association with Sales Performance International and solution selling is where I first learned about Vision and Reengineering. And so I want to refer to our clients and our people who are on this webinar today that the collaborative sale, solution selling in a buyer-driven world, I'm going to repeat that, the book, The Collaborative Sale, Solution Selling in a Buyer-Driven World is part of the text that we're using today and represents my background in working with SPI over the years. And now I'm retired, so I'm not trying to sell them on anything, but they do have good material, and that may be one that is useful for you. You can get the book on Amazon or through their SPI sales website. So in order to define that buying process a little bit, what we call the buying journey, Voldemar, tell me about your car buying experience. I want to take you through that. Why did you mentioned earlier when I was meeting with you that you had recently bought a car, and it was a used car. And so I want to ask you, why did you buy a car? What was the problem that you had to solve with your car?
Well, I just recently got, well, at that time, that was 2 years ago, I hadn't gotten a driver's license and just didn't want the skills to rust. And I thought about, I would just buy a car. It's useful to have a car in the end. So I'd rather have it.
Were you walking before, or were you, how were you getting around?
We've got very good public transportation in Ukraine.
Okay.
At least, if not in terms of quality, at least in terms of coverage.
Okay. So you felt it was time for you in your life to buy your first car.
Yeah, that was
all right. So you had a need. Did you shop for your car? Did you do any investigation?
I was quite realistic that I will probably get into small kind of accidents because it was first car. So just to be on the safe side, I just went for a used car. So I don't feel that much pain when I hit it for the first time. I just accepted that it will happen. It happened, by the way.
It did.
It did.
Yeah, I had 2 accidents when I turned 16 before I was even 17 years old myself. Taught me to be a defensive driver much better. So did you do some research? Did you shop around? I mean, you had to decide on a price, but did you also have other criteria for your car?
Yeah, I wanted to use it to go as far into the mountains as possible. So I was mostly looking for a four-wheeler and a high clearance. And due to my big love to my Fiat Ritmo 1987, which was used, I think, for the whole 30 years of training new students, I right away went for the automatic gearbox. I didn't want to remember exact angles for each gear.
Yeah.
To not break it.
So essentially you establish a requirements list of it, maybe just a few, mentioned a few things that you wanted to define. And then how did you find your used car?
It was my wife that did. I had many tabs open. I went to sleep, and in the morning she told me, this looks good. And since my minimum requirements were fulfilled, we just went with it. And then it was just a matter of checking whether the quality is okay. And price for value, basically. Yeah. Obviously, relatively small set of requirements, and the price could go very high. We just ended up on this good price for value option because that jumps. Price goes linearly, a lot of options for many manufacturers, but price for value goes in big steps.
Very good. And that price for value, did you negotiate any?
Of course, at the end.
Great. My wife and I almost got up and walked out after the third concession by the last dealer that we bought a new car from. And I've always done that before. I've gotten up and walked out and then waited for the phone call to follow up, and it always has happened. We didn't quite do that because she really wanted the car, but we did do the same thing. But we've walked through the 3 stages there. First, you had a need. You decided it was time for you to have more flexibility in your transportation than just public transportation. And then you established some requirements. And you did a little research and found out. That's the rescue part. And then the proof step would be that you started looking and you found this car and you negotiated a deal and bought it. All right. And then you say you've banged it up once since then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But that is the buying
Guys,
process.
set up your Google Maps, your navigation before you go onto the road. That's a painful lesson.
Right. But the reason I bring that up as a fun example was that we all must expect the buyer to go through this process every time they do it. We do it when we decide to have a cup of coffee. We still go through the decision process. It may happen like that very quickly, but we still, all of us, every time we make a decision, we're going through this 3-step process. And because of that, we have to think about, well, how does vision reengineering fit into that? And so what we have learned in working in my research and consulting with sales organizations is that when we are looking to find a prospect, and when we find a prospect that might turn into a client, we may find them in any one of those 3 stages of their buying process. And one of the key fundamentals in good selling, good consultative, collaborative type of selling, is to make sure you as a sales organization get in alignment with the buying organization, so that if they are early in their buying process and still exploring what is the business problem they're trying to solve, what is their need, that you can help them with that. And you don't try to push price. You don't try to push the end of the buying process techniques on the beginning of the buying process with that client. But if you find a client that is well through that and they've fully explored their needs, they've fully investigated the solution that they're going to get, and perhaps had help from one of your competitors, then your behavior is much more in the vision reengineering side of first understanding what they're looking for and meeting that in order to start to build trust, but then finally to move forward. So that's kind of why I wanted to lay that out, is that we all have to acknowledge that. So when do you use vision reengineering? Well, one of the whens is answered by the fact that if the buyer is late in their buying process, that's certainly a time when you would use vision reengineering. Well, Lilia, tell me about how did you first meet Mark and his company? How did that buying process and that selling process start?
Well, first I met Mark's partner, Russ, who is also a managing partner at Flint Learning Solutions. And well, I met him at his house at the party. Where else do you meet your clients? But I was visiting Canada for also participating in one of the institutes for 2 weeks. And Mark was hosting a party for all the delegates who were visiting, and I was one of the delegates. So I met Mark, and then in a couple of weeks when I returned back home, I met Russ. Russ mentioned, they emailed us saying we have some opportunity, let's get connected. So I connected Volodymyr and Mark. We got on the call, and that's how it all started, through networking.
That's how it all started, right. So you used your networking skills to find this opportunity. And it was initially fairly early in Mark and Russ's where they were in their buying process, right, Mark? You were not fully engaged, ready to buy yet.
That's correct. We were just you know, in the process of thinking through where we wanted to go and what we wanted to do, but we hadn't engaged with anybody yet, with any vendors yet.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it was early in the process. So initially, that doesn't sound like a reengineering, but what happened then? What next? When Voldemar was brought in and you were brought in then instead of Lilia and Russ, then it got to the technical side a little bit more, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And well, by the time when I did connect with Lily and then she connected with Volodymyr, we were at the stage where we were ready to start looking at different vendors. And so we had more or less defined what we wanted to do, and you know, let's go.
That was not more or less. I just wanted to comment. I'm smiling because I remember usually, like, it wasn't strictly speaking vision reengineering, that was more vision enhancement. It just, when in the very first email you get after the call with Mark, you see 8 or so documents, among one of which, among all of them, is a very definitive database structure with all the entities and all the fields. You get a hint that probably they know what they want. So we went kind of the other way. We just did a design prototype to illustrate how it could look better, but we thought it would have a negative consequences trying to change the idea at this point.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to interrupt this story. We're going to continue on with this process here, but I'm going to interrupt the story for a moment to do a poll of our listeners here. And the poll is, have you had the experience of receiving a request for a proposal or a request for a quote? We call them RFPs, RFQs, and put in some extra hours to respond and still have lost the business. Has that ever happened to you? Please respond to the poll. We'll just give you about a few seconds. It's just a yes or no answer. And click submit. Okay, Lily, how about showing us the results if you can? Close it out. Yes, 90%. Well, that's not too surprising. It looks like we get RFPs and RFQs every once in a while. And boy, those are opportunities that just kind of fall in your lap. You can get pretty excited about that. But let me ask you a follow-up question. For this poll, it's for those of that 90% that said yes, for those that you've had that experience, how many work hours did you and your team spend writing and presenting your last proposal or quote? Less than 8 hours? A couple of days? More than 2 days? More than 16 hours? Just on the last one you did, especially the one you didn't win. How much did it cost you for your time? All right, Lilia, if you would, if we could submit that and close that out. All right, we got less than 8 hours is a good number, 45%, and some all the way up to almost a third of us for more than 2 days worth, 16 hours. Wow, that's a pretty big investment. Thank you, Lilia. So I'm going to suggest that not all prospects are created equal. It's not always a bird in the hand dropping in on you surprisingly and excited about it. The RFP and RFQ strategy that we've taught for years is one of this. It's called quid pro quo, never give without getting. And one of the strategies that we have always taught in the solution selling organization is to find a way to trade those 16 hours or 8 hours or 5 hours or however much time it takes you to respond to a quote or respond to a proposal, whatever that takes you, trade that for access to the decision makers in the organization. So as you look at that request for a quote or request for a proposal, read it through, see if it's biased towards one of your competitors or in some other way not aligned with your best capabilities, and try to get in front of some of the decision makers that are sending it out. That's not the procurement department. They are the sales prevention departments, as what we used to say. But try to get in front of the people who are actually going to benefit from or are expecting to utilize your solution. Get in front of them. If you cannot negotiate that trade of your time for their time, if you cannot, then we recommend you step away from that proposal and no bid, because you're otherwise wasting your time, we believe, most of the time. And the chances of winning that proposal, even with a low price or with other concessions that you try to build in there, your chances are still slim because they are so far in their buying process, because RFPs come close to the third stage of that buying process, that it's hard to convert them. It's hard to win unless you can get in front of them. And of course, if you can get in front of the decision makers, that's when you use vision reengineering to try to improve and change the game, and perhaps even throw that request for proposal off track until they reconsider. So it takes courage to do that, to do what I've just talked about, and it's not for the weak of heart. Voldemar?
Yeah, I just want to tell Hebronsoft's experience with this. We receive many RFPs, many RFQs, requests for quotes, and we just noticed throughout the years and experience that if you just give the number, it doesn't work. So at some point, you just, as you mentioned, it's a very painful process. I think most of the attendees can really have felt this. You spend a lot of hours, you do the proposal, and then you don't get chosen. You don't get chosen. Yeah. Very simple. And then you get frustrated and disappointed because you didn't win.
Yeah.
So, and historically, just comparing bids, RFPs we didn't win against those we have won, we noticed that vast majority of the projects we currently have and had and finished were from the prospects we've been able to help. Like Tom Kegley says, good sales is always about delivering value.
Yeah.
So if you cannot deliver value by at least attempting to help, if you just go through the thinking that, hey, it takes 5 minutes of my time to roughly ballpark the quote, it's 10,000, 20,000. It's 5 minutes of my time. I know it's almost zero conversion rate, but hey, it's only 5 minutes of my time. It's still not worth it. Yeah. So if you know you cannot win, try to win in some other ways. Like try to be different. Yeah. Say no. Write an email and say, I will not put this in. You have somebody in mind. I will not win this. If you want me to help you, give me a chance to help you, but I don't want to be another column in your table. That is better way to lose than just provide a number and still don't win. You know you won't win if you just give ballpark quote.
Very good. Very good. Mark, how about
if somebody won, please let me know. I don't think that's really possible at the third stage.
Right. Mark, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just interesting. We know that, but of course, we all fall into it now and again where you just like, oh, I want to bid on this. Yeah. And so we just found out yesterday we had lost an RFP that we had put a fair bit of time in, and it was a government client that we had no access to. So you can send in questions, and we tried to get access. We couldn't get any access to. At the end of the day, it was just a number, and we found out today. We asked for a debrief, and we were off by like 20%, and we didn't. All that time and effort was just wasted. And we knew better, but we still fall into it now and again, don't we?
We all do.
Maybe
That's right.
Maybe you should have visited a party if you knew what the decision makers. It's just a joke. Sorry.
Tongue in cheek, we suggest that if the RFP, particularly the request for proposals, which are the hardest or take the most time, if you know your competitor got in there early and has influenced that RFP to where it's pointing towards their strongest capabilities competitively, then they ought to send you some flowers to thank you for helping them win. That's our attitude about that. But if you can negotiate, now see, I'm willing to say we would love to respond to you if you will give us access so we can. And like Mark is saying, especially with government opportunities, there you can't. They have rules about that. And in larger companies that have procurement departments running their RFP, RFQ system, then you're also going to have a tough time. But stand up and take your time to find somebody you can win. Get in early with somebody. Work on another prospect and try to overturn some pains, some hurt in another company, and bring those forward. All right.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
I just want to illustrate another point that I think is very important. We talk about visionary engineering. There's a whole process of how to visionary engineer. There are a specific set of phrases to use. There are a specific set of thinking and knowledge process to do visionary engineering. But it's very important to understand preconditions. In my experience, you can only help the client if you are equal in the exchange of information.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like let me illustrate three levels of clients. One is, let me like really take a very low example. Imagine it's a housewife that wants to start a business selling cakes, and she wants to have her own website for that. So if you try to be arrogant about it in a very polite way, you just say, no, you don't understand, no, you don't need this, no, you don't need that, she will not like you, probably, the housewife, and you will not win even that simple thing. You have to, if your knowledge is vastly superior to the customer, you have to get on that level, understand their problem, which is very simple to understand, but you have to walk them through the problem and help to finish that. So you have to make yourself equal. Medium level, you work with the medium-sized companies. Me and Mark Flintz, we were roughly equal. We were very similar in size, employees-wise. We were speaking as equals. They had problems. We had our own expertise. We acknowledged their domain expertise, dozens of years of domain expertise. We didn't fight with that, but we fought for the UX, where we are good. It was a very collaborative approach, and that worked. We managed to enhance the vision during the selling phase to provide them a design prototype to do that. And I think if it's the government, you're ultimately not on the same level. So you cannot physically visionary engineer because you're not at the equal level. You just cannot. And if it's only the price that matters, maybe it's the cases where you have to bid low and hope you will get chosen. But if you get a bigger customer, way bigger than you, like I very often have to speak with very mature people who know more than me, who are more experienced than me, and who understand what they want more than me. In that case, it never hurts to be humble. Then you just have to appreciate your own strengths, and then you have to be really fully sincere in your desire to help, and that would be appreciated. If you cannot be equal, like if you're higher than the client, you have to get on the equal level. If you cannot be equal, you have to be humble and have to play on your strengths and to be really sincere and dedicated in trying to help. And if you are in charge of your selling department, you're probably somebody very valuable and important in your own organization. Nobody non-important gets access to the front lines of the business. And if you even at that point, you meet somebody even more experienced, mature, knowledgeable, talented than you, it's a good guess that they will appreciate your humbleness, your understanding of your position, and your desire to help. If you just will try to outplay and outsmart, and that might play back and get back to you.
Yep. Thank you,
So the
Voldemar.
conditions for vision reengineering, putting all the house aside is the qualifications. You have to get on an equal or similar to an equal level where you talk like equals.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't.
Mark?
If you feel like you want to help and they ask, no need, just give me a quote. No, just give me a proposal. I understand. We just need some help. If you could give me your rough numbers. It's better to not give anything at all and have them be bugged by it. Let it be bugging them that you didn't play by their rules instead of just likely losing the sale.
Yeah. Thank you, Vladimir. Mark, do you have additional comments on that?
Well, I mean, if we go back to the, I think I can illustrate this point if we go back to the story about, you know, how we got connected together.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had an idea of what we wanted to do. And as Vladimir said, we had a, you know, bit more than an idea. My background is, you know, I was a developer back in the day. And it's all changed since then, but I knew kind of what had to take place in order to achieve what we wanted to achieve. And so I put together a package and I sent it out to 3 different organizations, Hebronsoft being one of them. And one organization, they just came back with a price. That was it. They said, yeah, we've, you know, looked at all your material. Here's what it's going to cost you. The other organization, they wanted to sell me their development platform. And, you know, it didn't really fit with what we were trying to do, but they didn't really care if it fit or not. They wanted to sell me their development platform.
Here's what's on our shelf.
That's right. That's what they wanted to sell us. And then, but when I connected with Vladimir, he didn't try to sell me on a certain way of developing it or a certain, you know, he said, let's look at what you've got here. Let's vision where it could go. Then they created a prototype, put in some things that I hadn't thought about, created some very visually appealing things that I hadn't thought about. And we went back and forth and collaborated over that. We hadn't even got to a price yet. We were still just talking about what the possibility could be.
Sure.
And so you know, with the other 2, it was a really easy decision for us. And you know, Hebronsoft was not the lowest priced when we finally came down to the price. So we didn't purchase on price, but we really felt that they shared our vision and helped us understand what our vision was. And so it was a really great process, and no regrets going that route at all. So they really, you know, as Vladimir said, you really have to collaborate and put yourself in the shoes of the client and really understand where they want to go, and then help enhance their ideas and help them think about, well, have you thought about this or that? One of the key ones was, you know, I'm of the age where, why would you ever work on your phone? That is just a tiny little thing. I can barely see the thing. Where, so we were not planning on making this mobile.
You were adamant about not having an app.
And he insisted we had to go. And then so they designed a user interface for it. And when I saw it, I was really impressed. Because most apps on phones just don't look good, and this looked really slick. And so we decided to go ahead with it. And now when we're presenting to our clients, the thing they like the best look is the mobile, and people go, wow, that is so slick. And it's really helped us.
Yeah, I just have to mention, like I mentioned, Mark was adamant, no mobile app. Is like our solutions for office people, no need for the app. And we design it for free. Like we said, Mark, we will design it for free of charge. Let us design the software for you. We did the design. And after Mark saw it, well, development wasn't free, but Mark now fully appreciated the change, the new idea.
Yeah. So sometimes you have to do that and just let us show you something. And maybe you don't get paid for it right away, but you get paid for it in building trust and building the collaboration, the working together, the equalness of this transaction is what has impressed me, as each of these gentlemen have described how the process went here before this meeting. I thought we've got to have this example here and look at it from both sides, the sales side and the customer side as well. And we had used the word in preparing for this webinar to be tactful, but Volodymyr, I really like your humble is even a better word. You have to be both tactful and maybe humble, but having some humility and just saying, "Boy, I don't know everything, but I know some stuff, and maybe the two of us can get together, and I want to learn from you as much as you learn from me." And that's kind of the way that I perceive this particular opportunity has evolved for Hebronsoft, and also for Mark as far as his moving forward with his own product to sell to his marketplace. So some folks have asked
if I could just 30
yeah.
seconds of the time. I just want to explain that how I understand this magic happens. All of us have bought things that probably you weren't worth the money from somebody else's perspective. And usually if you like something, you will reason 10 good reasons why it's worth buying it.
Yeah.
But the actual reason why you're buying it is just because you like it.
Yeah.
If you like these shoes, you will think of 5 to 10 reasons why you should buy them. I need new shoes, my current are old ones, I have to visit my sister's wedding in 3 months. Same happens here. If you like somebody, if you trust somebody, you will come up with your own logical reasons for doing that.
Yeah.
Conversely, if somebody doesn't like you or you doesn't like somebody, you might not necessarily admit you don't like that somebody, but you will find, following your unconscious, you will find your reasons for not choosing to work with that person.
Yeah.
If you get on an interview, I think most of us here interviewed somebody for a job. You get on an interview, in the first 3 minutes, you know whether you will hire that person or not.
Yeah.
You spend the rest of the hour finding specific reasonings that you will provide to your manager why you should hire that person, but you know, or you, in your first 3 minutes, whether you want to hire that person or you don't.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Well, we have the question, if you don't mind interrupting, how do you protect your prototype if the trust is not built yet?
How do you
protect, you can see
prototype.
In the chat. Yeah, how do you protect your prototype if the trust is not built yet? Maybe we can answer that later. We can think about that, or if somebody wants
Sam, if you could only elaborate, how do you define protect? Financially? If you could elaborate, we will try to answer that.
Yeah, very good. So someone has asked, well, what are the specific phrases or questions you use to execute on vision reengineering and vision enhancement for that matter as well? And some of the phrases that are, it's just really pretty simple. It's, have you ever thought about trying, if you're trying to suggest a new part of the solution, if you're trying to enhance the vision, if you will, of what ought to happen, what the solution ought to look like. Have you thought about trying that is a phrase you can use. Or if you want to set up a new part of the solution, a new capability, you can set it up by first exploring the need for it. And that would be on the hurt part instead of the rescue side. And so you could ask, have you ever had this happen? Or how do you feel about this problem? And you describe the problem that your idea is going to rescue. So then you become the hurt and rescue expert or the rescue and hurt expert. If you say, have you thought about trying this? And they might say, well, no, I haven't thought about it, but why do I need it? Then you can talk to them about the problem that new idea is going to address. So you do the hurt and rescue back and forth on a fine-tuned basis, a small reason at the time, instead of the big problem, perhaps, the issues such as mobile capabilities or whatever that extra capability is you want to bring up. So you either suggest it in a humble and in a tactful way, and in a way that demonstrate your focus on the customer, that you're most interested in whether the customer can embrace a new idea, or you can have the customer ever found this problem, and then if you have that, then I'm going to suggest another questioning skill that's very important in these kinds of conversations, and we call them the MOM questions, M-O-M, and that's just simply how much, or how often, or how many times has that happened, or how often has it happened, or how much is it costing you, or how much have you lost in revenues because you have this problem. And on the rescue side, how much do you think you could increase your revenues or your profits, or reduce your costs because of this new capability? So you look at it pieces at a time. Yeah.
I just want to bring to attention of the attendees a very important piece of psychology behind asking these questions. So
yeah,
I mentioned before that if somebody trusts you or they like you, they will find their own reasons to work with you.
Yeah.
And these questions, notice how they all start. How have you ever thought? How would you feel? My personal favorite is what if?
Yeah.
What if something happens? What do we do then? It's very important. There are very specific steps. If on the very first call with the decision maker or the customer you make, if you have to talk only no more than 20% of the time. If you get on a call and you talk 80% of the time, you probably would feel very good about yourself at the end of the meeting. And that's a problem that's my problem. I like to talk a lot, like you all see. And I had to fight that down when I actually do sales process. If you were silent for 80 or better 90% of the meeting, you have likely won your deal. If you manage to make your customer, your partner speak 80-90% of the time, you have very likely have won the deal, or at least the second meeting.
Yeah.
It's very important
the opportunity along.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's very important to fully focus, to not have your thoughts, to not like get distracted with your thoughts and, oh, sorry, what were you talking about again? To fully focus, ask questions, how, what, to make the person speak. And if they do that, if you manage to successfully do that, I think you won.
Very good point. As a matter of fact, you don't learn anything when you're talking.
Nothing. You just feel good about yourself, but it doesn't help.
That's right. You already know what you know, and you're not learning anything about the client, anything about their needs or the issues or their visions. And that brings up, how do you come up with the questions? Now we've used the techniques of what ifs or whatever, but situational fluency is one of the basic principles that we've been talking around here, but to come up with, and Voldemar, you've sort of suggested that, as far as, is your knowledge way above the little lady that wants to start a bake shop, or is it below the big corporate technical people who have more experience and more resources than you do, or are you sort of in the middle there? But it's situational fluency we define as not only knowing about the industry and the challenges and work issues with the decision maker. That's important and critical, really, to be able to think up the questions to say, would it help if you don't know their industry, you don't know whether that's going to fit or not. But if you know their industry, you are only going to bring up the things that you think have either worked in another business, similar business, or worked or a new idea that's just coming out in your industry, and you have what we call situational knowledge about the prospect. But at the same time, it's not only knowing about your your features and functions, but what the capabilities are that you give to the customer, that they use, and as a result, they benefit. And so capability knowledge is the other part of that. So it's situational knowledge is both the customer side and also your side coming together, and in a way that's customer focused all the way.
Yeah, it's very, there's no strict scenario. Like,
yeah,
we know a lot about vision enhancement, vision reengineering, but in the end, I think what's really important is to be really dedicated in your intent to help the solution get better, to achieve the goals. It's important to first get the goals out of the person you're talking to, even if the person doesn't know himself or herself. So you've got to get that skill or experience doing that. And then you have, when you've heard what you believe is the best, the problem, the hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Once you know the hurt, it's all smooth sailing from there. You just focus on helping out how to focus the hurt. There are some things that the people often know but do not want to admit. That also happens.
Yeah, we have an explanation or more extension on the question that was on the table of how do you protect your prototype. And so in our example, the two of you, the prototype, the proof of concept was already shared with the buyer. And what if the buyer takes that and engages other vendors to execute on that proof of concept? How do you protect yourself from that, or should you?
Well, that was an easy one to answer, because they showed us the prototype, but they never gave us the prototype. So they kind of just dangled it out there. We did a Zoom call or whatever it was, and showed it and said, wow, that's fantastic. But they never gave it to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you have to give it, you just give it. Like, if you are dealing with the person who would do that, take your prototype and engage it with other vendors, you're likely missed a bullet. Like, working with such a kind of a person that wants to leverage anything they have against you and use every opportunity they have to scam something out of you, you would rather have that person go to other vendors. It's like, it's not the goal to protect yourself. The goal is to win the deal. You win the deal by, it's exchange of value. It's a good phrase I heard from one of the attendees that's here. It's a fair exchange of value. You provide your trust and your ideas, and in exchange you expect to get the deal. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, maybe it wasn't worth. It wasn't the client you wanted to work with.
Yeah. Maybe you
appreciate the equalness in exchange.
Right. Other thoughts from Mark? You use vision reengineering in your own business. How is Flint Learning Systems doing? Learning Solutions.
Yeah, well, and maybe I'll address it. There's another question that just came up. Should you share your ideas in the first meeting or second meeting?
Yeah.
What we do is, when we, in our first meeting with the client, is we really try to discover what is their hurt, right? What is the problem that they're trying to solve? And as was said earlier, we do very little talking. We have a number of questions that we would ask and do a bit of an assessment to really understand where their problem is. Then we also ask them, we say, can you give us, because we create digital content. So we said, can you give us some of your content that you have now that you've used in the past? And let us take that away and give us, a week, 10 days, whatever it is. And let's set up a second meeting, and we can come back and we can talk more about, where we think we could go with this together. And so you automatically get a second meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? like,
Yeah.
so, because of course they're going to say, yes, we'll provide you some content and you can come back and tell us more. And in that second meeting, we start to help try and form that vision of where we could go together with their content, with some different ideas and so on. And we call it a whiteboarding session because we like to, stand up on the whiteboard and say, well, imagine if we could do this, would that help you out? And so on. And you get them kind of in that thinking about what are the possibilities of where we could go with this. And hopefully by the end of that meeting, they're excited about where the future could be. And then you can just keep working that. So that's the kind of the process that we follow. And we also put in there between those two meetings, we also say, it's more than likely after we've looked at your content, we're going to have some questions as well. So it'd be okay if I, fired you off an email. And it's amazing what questions you can ask when they think that, you're doing that to help come up with a vision. And they'll answer, some great questions. So that almost, you almost end up getting 3 meetings out of the 1 meeting.
Yeah. Very good. But even
Very
that
well
first
said,
meeting.
Mark. And I think there's a very strict scenario for when do you share your ideas. So I just want to clarify, like, it's not anything outstanding, but I just have want you to know this, like, explicitly. You fail, like, when do you fail the deal? Like, when do you not get chosen? When do you fail the deal? When you give the price and it doesn't work. Until you have given the price, nobody will ignore you. Like, you get on the first meeting, you hear your ideas, nobody will refuse a second meeting because they have no reason to refuse a second meeting. You're still a prospect vendor who could do this. The longer you delay, the longer you manage to delay the bargaining part, where you bargain the price, the more you get a chance to like you, to understand you, understand them, to get used to you. Like, people get used to each other, right? Like, if you have 1, 2, best scenario 5, 7, 10 meetings with them, and you still haven't discussed the price, you're already working. You've already won. Like, any price you give at that point after 3, 4, 5 meetings, you will find your way around it. It's bargaining part. You just have to make it work for you and them. You, like, price for value. You provide price.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, then you reduce the value so it can accommodate the price. But you won. At that point, it's just a bargain. If you get to bargaining, you've already won. And that's the point.
One of the things we all, as people, as certainly I fall into this, is we want to shorten the sales cycle.
Sure.
Right? We want to get this thing, signed and moved on and let's go. But when you can lengthen the sales cycle, you can build that trust and build that vision and that cooperation and create that long-term partnership.
And what you do by that is improve the success rate.
Absolutely.
And so by really becoming collaborative with your prospects and really building a robust, appropriate, sometimes it's take something off. You re-engineer off something that they thought they wanted, and it's not really the best way to do it. Either way, you have built a customer trust and relationship, and so your improved success rate is there. Well, we are unfortunately out of time. So Lilia, I'm going to thank these gentlemen for their openness and their willingness to share their time, and so I appreciate that so much. And Lilia, I'll turn it back over to you for a final poll from our viewers. And if we haven't finished every question, we will send you back an email with the answer that we have for you.
Yes, so thank you everybody. Thank you Bill, Volodymyr, and Mark for today. We also have one last poll for you to get. Here it is. So which topic interests you the most for future webinar as part of Hebronsoft Institute? We've done one last month. Today's our second one, and we also have a couple others coming, and we want to hear what your preferences might be. Okay, so I'll give it another second. All right, and I'll show results. Okay, so we've got growth hacking and marketing channels, which we thought as the most interesting one, and then channels to network with decision makers and making a company.
Parties, Lila mentioned is parties. You just go to Canada, have some parties, and you make decision makers.
Go to the party.
Well,
That's
thank
right.
you everybody for attending today, and thank you again for our subject matter experts. Let's stay in touch with everybody. Well, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Abdo. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Volodymyr.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Lydia. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Just in case if whoever is left, we will be sending an email with a video recording, and you can also find us on YouTube with the video recording. And also if you go to our website, you can see Hebronsoft Institute with future webinar topics. All right, bye-bye everybody.